in their hearts and minds to dedicate themselves to the Sankirtan movement. And then since they're already integrated into society, their influence begins to affect many other people. What to speak of the deliberate kinds of ways in which they organize themselves to expand the Sankirtan movement through book distribution and Harinam, etc. So it's a great honor to be in your house. Actually, this was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's idea, and that was to enact the Sankirtan movement within the hearts of sincere people and have them establish their homes as temples and places from which they go out to spread Krishna consciousness. Once in Detroit, Michigan, there was a grihasta who approached Prabhupada, and there's a video of this, amidst the hundreds of brahmacharis. In the old days, there used to be mostly brahmacharis, sannyasis, brahmacharinis, and there were a few householders they were very rare. Of course, it's sort of flipped the other way now, which is fine. It's really, there are different eras and different ways in which those eras affect people. But in any case, this sincere householder had approached Prabhupada in this crowd of brahmacharis, sannyasis, and he said, all of these devotees live in the temple, and they are here for all the programs, and they have so much service, but I'm a householder. I live outside, and I have my children to take care of, I have my job to attend to. I said, how can I do this devotional practice? And Prabhupada gave a very simple answer. He said, this temple is made of brick and stone. He said, your house is made of brick and stone. He said, in this temple, the business is for Krishna. He said, in your house, if the business is for Krishna, no difference. It's not a matter of where you live or what ashrama you're in, but how you've dedicated yourself or made a decision to worship Krishna. That's the most important decision anyone can make. And in the topic tonight, which is the keys to powerful sadhana, the most important key is one's own decision that I'm going to surrender to Krishna. So Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami says, Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kahe Suridhanashchoy Krishna Bhakti Koila Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. This is the attitude of somebody who has what is called firm faith. And that is, he or she has discerned or determined that the main business of life is to surrender to Krishna. And surrender means to follow Krishna's instructions and to do what's favorable. Whatever Krishna says, I'll do. This is called Shraddha. And the very word Shraddha means what you put your heart into. Because Shrad means heart. And Da is an active verb. It means where you place something. So what are you putting your heart into? So once somebody makes this decision that my life is for devotional service, my life is for Krishna, then there's no external circumstance that can check a person's performing devotional service. On the other side, if one hasn't made that decision within oneself that I'm going to surrender to Krishna, then it doesn't matter how many external facilities one has. You can be in the most favorable circumstance and not be able to take advantage of it. Or you can be in the worst of external circumstances and you can have a very deep experience in Krishna consciousness. In fact, it can be even deeper, because oftentimes when the environment checks us from doing devotional service, it makes us even more determined to do it. How does one get such determination? So there's a word in English, since we're speaking in English, deliberation. And when somebody's taken the time to deliberate, which means to consider the consequences of one's life's actions. Everyone has to work in a certain way, correct? Say yes. Yes. Yeah, so if I think about it, what I'm doing, what will be the consequences for what I'm doing? And where does it lead? This is part of deliberation. The word itself has the fragmental part libre or libra, which means the scales, where you weigh things. You know the pan scales? Put a cauliflower on one side, the weight on the other. See how much it weighs? So deliberation means to weigh things out. Find out which things are most important. Determine that for yourself. And one of the best ways to do that is to, in the association of like-minded devotees, to talk about the importance of devotional service. And I've seen this many, many times in small groups where there's some advanced devotee or devotees who have, and by advanced I mean somebody who's already decided that I'm going to surrender to Krishna no matter what. In that kind of assembly, the discussion about devotional service in general, asking questions and having those questions answered, is a kind of deliberation. And that is what solidifies one's own determination to surrender to Krishna. That is the first and most important aspect of practice of devotional service, because once one has that conviction and develops it and thickens it, in the Brahma Samhita it is said by Krishna himself, Yadrishi Yadrishi Shraddha Siddhir Bhavati Tadrishi, that the thicker your conviction is, or your Shraddha, in the fact that the goal of life is to perform devotional service, and that by doing devotional service, everything else in my life will be done. Narada Muni says, Tyaktva sadharmam charanam bhujam harer bhajana pakvota patet tato yadi yatra kla babajam abuda mushikim kuvarta apta vajatam sudharmata. He says that if somebody gives up his occupational duties, it means everybody in this world has some idea of what it means to enjoy life or to find some kind of prestige or perfection in one's duty. And if somebody puts that aside for the sake of devotional service and tries for devotional service, because it's possible somebody hears about Krishna, hears about devotees, hears about the process of devotional service, and then thinks, I should do this. And then he puts aside the other ways in which he's trying to get ahead in life, which may include education, working hard in one's job to get promoted, accumulating wealth. Because the earlier you start accumulating wealth with compounded interest over time, I mean, you really do have to get a jump on things to get ahead materially, and you have to work hard. But if someone puts that aside and says, I think it's a higher value to surrender to Krishna, and let's say they take to devotional service in a very determined way, and then it turns out that they weren't ready, and they fail. So this way, tyaktva swadharmam. So swadharma means your place in this world, your occupation, and you give it up. Tyaktva swadharmam. Tyaktva means to give something up. Charanam bhujam harer, to worship Krishna, you give it up. Bhajana pakvota patet tato yadi. Patet means but you fall back. And why? Because you were not ready. means that you weren't ripe. Chakva Sadharmam Charanam Bhujam Harir. Bhajana apakvo means you weren't ripe. So paka means that something's ripe. It's full. But you're apakva. You weren't ripe. And then you fell back. So this is Narada Muni speaking. And he says to Vyasadeva, so what? And there's no loss. There's no loss in that because you tried for the right thing. Tyakva, you gave it up. Swadharmam, Charanam Bhujam Harir, to worship Hari. Bhajana Pakvo, to Tato Yadi, but you weren't ready yet. So he says that's okay, because at least you tried. And whatever impetus you had and whatever effort you gave in that direction, you get eternal credit for that. And you moved ahead in the right direction. You didn't lose anything. But on the other side, if someone, for their swadharma, they do everything perfectly. They go to the right schools, they get the right promotions, they work very, very hard and get ahead, and they actually achieve a very high standard of material life. Like, you could become a state senator, or a prime minister, or a wealthy person, or respected in society. Narada Muni says, what did you actually achieve? Because all that is superficial. You're going to lose it anyway. In the mix of the material nature, when you give up this body, all that reputation's lost. State senator in his next life could become a nice little puppy dog somewhere. Maybe, sleeping in a junk pile or something. And the material nature is so exacting according to one's actual activities and desires. It rewards accordingly. So Narada says, Tasyaiva hetu prayateta kovido na labhyate yat brahmatam uparyada halabhyate dukkha varanyata sukham kalena sarvatra gabhira ramhasa. And that means that notice that even though you don't like bad things to come into your life, they come anyway, against your desire. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, let some catastrophe come to my household. But still things come. Bad luck, we call it. Reversals of fortune, it comes against your desire. So he said, in the same way, the good things that you're working hard for, that you're hoping for, they're going to come also of their own accord. You don't even have to work so hard for them. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives this advice: Yat richa labasantushto dvandvatito vimatsara. He said, let things come of their own nature. Be satisfied on the material side with things, they come of their own nature. You don't have to try so hard. That's what yat richa means. Have you ever had that? Just some good thing came to you. It's like, what? Where did this come from? I mean, you might already have experienced it. Along with your birth, you got certain kinds of facilities. Things come to you. So Krishna says, learn to be satisfied with that which comes of its own accord. But Narada continues, Tasyaiva heta prayateta kovido na labhyate yat brahmatam uparyata. Don't be satisfied with your spiritual stature. Try for that. The other side, you can let it go a little bit, because the fact is, you're going to get what you're going to get. I mean, I saw when I was in Puri one day, I saw a man with a bicycle rickshaw. This was some time ago. Bicycle rickshaws are going away these days. And next to him, there was a guy with a motor rickshaw. So the guy with the motor rickshaw, he looked very kind of smug, or like he was thinking like, I'm on top of the world because I'm better than this guy. He's got a bicycle rickshaw. And he was kind of going ring, ring, ring. And the other poor guy was sitting there with a bicycle rickshaw thinking like, I got to pedal this thing through the heat. And in the material world, everyone has some thought, like, I'm better than this person. But really, from my point of view, coming from America, what's the real difference between a bicycle rickshaw and a motor rickshaw? The designation doesn't seem so great, but everyone thinks their designation is something great. And also, I was thinking the bicycle rickshaw man is probably not going to get a motor rickshaw in his lifetime. He's pretty much stuck with the bicycle. And the guy in the motor rickshaw, I was thinking, I don't think he's going to go to Harvard. He probably won't end up at an Ivy League school in this life. It's not there for him. Whereas other people, they're born into it, they don't even care about it. And someone says, hey, son, you're going to Harvard. And you're like, okay, whatever. Because that's what just comes naturally. So, talabhyate dukhavaranyata sukham, kalena sarvatra kabira namasa. Narada says those things that come naturally in due course of time, they're going to come anyway, because they're destined for you on the material side. And whether you like it or not, some takeaways are going to be there. Reversal of fortune. It'll get taken back because you took it from somebody else maybe 100 lifetimes ago, and now it's time to pay up. And you gave so much in some lifetime, and now it's going to come back to you. That's already settled up. He says, don't worry about that so much. He says, do worry about advancing spiritually. That part you can do something about. So, sadhana is an attitude. And the first attitude is developed through deliberation. And when you deliberate, then you can become deliberate. It's the same word. It's the same word. Sridham, are you taking note of this for your notebook? Did you bring your notebook? He's keeping a collection of words. Because he's kind of a scholar and really likes language. So just note, Sridham, that the word deliberate and deliberate and deliberate, it's spelled the same way. But it means once you deliberate about something, you consider these things like we're talking about now. If you just listen to these verses from Narada Muni and you say, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Material life is pretty much fixed up. Why don't I try hard for spiritual advancement? Then you develop a deliberateness. You say, I'm going to be deliberate about this. So when you're deliberate about your spiritual practice, because you've considered it already, what are the consequences of trying hard in the material world to get ahead? Well, in the end, you lose it all anyway. What are the consequences if you try hard for spiritual advancement? That is unlimited. And that is something that you never lose. So which is better? Therefore, it's said that, actually, a great saint once said, that material life is all risk and no gain. And spiritual life is all gain and no risk. Although from my perspective, being attached to being comfortable in this world, one way or the other, I think spiritual life is a risk. And one who's deliberated properly will come to know more and more that actually the great risk is not taking to spiritual life as soon as possible and with as much vigor as possible. And that's what the Shastras all say. As soon as you understand how important this is, and that there's no risk in taking to spiritual life because there's no way you can lose. Even if you give up the process partway through, you'll keep that part. And you see people, they're born into this world, they're going about their business like an ordinary materialistic person, maybe a little confused about what to do or what not to do, but then suddenly they awaken and they say, oh, I remember now, I'm supposed to be a devotee. Have you ever seen anybody like that? We meet people all the time, and I show them in the Bhagavad Gita 6th chapter where Krishna says, by dint of their practice of spiritual life in their previous lives, they have these purva samskars because of remembrance of their practice. Krishna reminds them in this life, this is what you wanted to do. And he gives them facility. You meet a devotee, you come in contact, and you take it up again. So if someone develops this awareness of the urgency of spiritual life, we can leave at any minute. We don't know. We have 7 days to live. Right, Divyanam Prabhu? 7 days to live. I always ask this question. Shukadeva Goswami, How many days did he have? 7 days. How many do we have? 7 days, because it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. One of those days we're also going to leave the world. So really considering that we have 7 days to live, the urgency. This is the first and most foundational point for strong sadhana, is to develop this awareness of the urgency of it and the fact that there's no risk and all gain from spiritual practice. Whereas in my material endeavors, they're necessary. I have to maintain myself somehow or other. I can't artificially dump everything. But I should do it in order so that I can maintain myself in such a way that I can carry on with my spiritual practice. This is the prescription given in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in which Sutta Goswami says, Kamasya nendriya pritir labo jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jignasya narto yash cheha karmabi. He says, don't work hard in life so that you can eat better and better food. Paraphrasing. Eat so that you can be strong enough to perform good sadhana. Don't live to eat to live, so that you can perform devotional service. Real life means sadhana, means practicing for a purposeful end. Even in the material context, self-help people will say, the only way you're really happy in this life, I'm not talking about spiritual life right now, but just talking about, and you know this, you've heard it a million times, people say that real happiness comes when you're pursuing a worthy goal. Otherwise, life's kind of confusing and really can become boring. You're not doing anything, you're not pursuing a goal. Even people who are wealthy, if they're not pursuing a worthy goal, they just feel lackluster and bored in life. But if one understands the most worthy goal is to get Krishna's favorable glance, if I can attract his attention by what I'm doing, then this is the best sadhana, to live your life like that. So then the next thing is to figure out, what is Krishna like? What does he like to see? And if I can do those things that attract Krishna's attention, what are the things that he says in Bhagavad Gita, for instance, in the 12th chapter? He says things like, one who is a kind friend to all living entities. That person, I like that person. He's a kind friend to all living entities. That person who's not dependent on the ordinary course of activities. Krishna says, I like that. I like the devotees who are like that. Those devotees who are surrendered to me. They're not concerned with loss and gain, victory or defeat, but they're concerned with my service. They're very dear to me. So if one hears these preferences that Krishna has and tries to mold one's life to attract Krishna's attention, this is strong sadhana. This is what real sadhana means. So, for instance, we read in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that one day Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told his mother, when he was living at home in Navadvip, you remember that, right? Nimai, living at home with his mother, he had his wife, and one day he told his mother, actually he was still young when he wasn't married yet, but he told his mother, please fast on Ekadashi day. It's a sacred day, fast on Ekadashi day. It's called Harivasara. It's a day in which you can please Krishna. Now if you look around, not many people even know much about Ekadashi. They don't even know how to fast. I mean, nobody even knows what a grain is. When you say don't eat grains, what's a grain? Everyone has a different opinion. But one thing we do know is that Lord Chaitanya liked it when we fast on Ekadashi. So whether you know everything about Ekadashi or very little, one thing you must know is that Lord Chaitanya liked it. So it's like, I'm going to fast on Ekadashi because Lord Chaitanya said it, he likes it, so I'm going to do it. That's sadhana. You find out what Krishna likes and you do it. Of course, it's nice to know what Ekadashi means and why we fast on Ekadashi. But this is the mood of strong sadhana, is that you find out what it is that attracts Krishna's attention. What does he like? And then I just mold my life around that. Because if I do the things that Krishna likes, then he'll notice, oh, this person is nice. He's doing service. There's a story in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. During the ceremony at Srivas Thakur's house, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had revealed that he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he actually sat on the altar and had the devotees come and bring many pots of water to bathe him in the bathing ceremony known as Abhishek, to consecrate this moment that he was revealing that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everyone had been waiting for it. Actually, everyone had intuited that if he became actually a Vaishnava, it would be really good. And then when he did become a Vaishnava, then everyone was ecstatic. But then when he revealed actually he was Krishna, everyone was so joyful. They all came to Srivas Thakur's house. They were bathing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And amidst all the clamor of that festival, there was one devotee who was a servant in the house of Srivas Thakur. And she was very much in the background. It wasn't that she was a big name. She wasn't near the front where all the big name devotees were, who were intimate associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu noticed her service because he saw somebody's back there lining up the little pots of Ganga Jal. And they're doing a painstaking job. In the crowd, at the very back, he noticed. And then he mentioned her publicly. He said, "Who is this person lining up the pots?" "Oh, that's our maidservant. Her name is Tuki." And then he named her Suki. Point was, he noticed her. Same with Maharaj Prataparudra, who was a king. At first, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "I don't want to see him. He's a king." A sannyasi visiting a king, or a king visiting a sannyasi, said this is a scandal, actually. But when Prataparudra went out into public and picked up a broom, this is what bungis do, and kings don't pick up brooms in India. But he humbled himself and he went and swept in front of Lord Chaitanya's Ratha Yatra, of Lord Jagannath's cart. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu noticed that. It was so attractive to him that he revealed himself. So this is the point of sadhana. It's meant to attract the attention of Krishna, find out what he likes, and then perform that activity that attracts his attention. And all the kinds of sadhana that we do are actually meant for that. We do it because it's pleasing to Krishna and that it attracts his attention. So there are practical ways also that the Goswamis talk about how we can organize our sadhana. We'll talk about that in just a minute. I'll just take a few reflections from anything that we've said in the monologue so far that caught your attention, and you can feed them back. Any points that were meaningful to you or that you remember. Do you hear the bees? The bumblebees? Sridham? It's a big one. Go ahead. Feedback what you heard. Yes, Prabhu.